Hey everybody, it's Wednesday, and this is kind of a wellness Wednesdays, but I don't know. I said I'd start doing gaming content every other week, and this was kind of a hybrid because I'm gonna talk about what playing Elden Ring, platinum and trophying Elden Ring taught me about myself. Now, about that platinum trophy, I am prepared for the epic freaking out that happens whenever you do anything thoughtful or nuanced regarding a From Software game. So before any y'all insist I just don't understand the game, I don't, any of this, here we go. Platinum trophy. There we are, right there, right here. Only 10.8% of players earned. I think it's kind of interesting that more people got did the Ronnie ending than some of the others. But, okay, I think I have reasons for that. Those are pretty good completion rates, by the way, considering the game. That gives you a sense of how hard or not hard the game is. But Platinum Trophy, I have played a lot of this game. And the very fact that I have to do that, I have to preempt the nerd check, preempt the screaming, is interesting, and why I'm really ambivalent getting too into these discussions. Because up until now, my experiences with the fandom community are pretty positive until I say anything I don't like about the game. And then people go fucking crazy. And I don't understand it, because a game doesn't have to be perfect to be worthy. But then it's, you just don't know how to play, get good. Platinum Trophy. Now, if you like this sort of content, this is an experiment, me going back to gaming content. So if you like this stuff, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK, as I unpack my soul regarding my interpretation of the game's story and its ending. As you see in the tag, there will be spoilers. Even showing the achievements for some people is a spoiler. In some ways, I think spoilers help the enjoyment of the game. But one of the things I am really, really mulling over, really struggling with right now, is now that Elden Ring sold like 20 million copies and climbing. From Software is a AAA studio. Those are AAA sales. I'm having more and more trouble defending just how scattershot and missing pieces the narratives are in these games. I like the environmental storytelling. You will see nods to environmental storytelling here, but past games, Bloodborne, it was more tone, more mood than actual story. Sekiro, it was a smaller story. With notable exceptions, I didn't have the same issue following it. And yes, there are very, very repetitive tropes that From Software uses, but the additional story by George R.R. Martin in the case of Elden Ring really made a case for, hey, maybe make the narrative a little less impenetrable, because what the game ends up being is a Rorschach blot onto your soul. And that's what's going to be the rest of this video. What I learned about myself and the gaps I fill in, the holes that is the Swiss cheese of the Elden Ring narrative. After multiple playthroughs and platinum trophying the game, I still can't. I still have questions, and I realized how many gaps I actually filled into my mind. I went and looked up lore articles. I looked up the wikis, and there's still stuff that just nobody's seen. And I've got elements of this game that I think are really central to it. But one, they're from software tropes. Two, we don't know. Nobody knows. All of this is just up in the air, which is why I don't know why people get so freaked out over little things like, hey, maybe they should have signposted the story better. Platinum trophy. Don't tell me I just didn't understand the game. I had something and I forgot. Anyway, into what I learned myself playing Elden Ring. About halfway through my first playthrough, I literally, legitimately wanted to burn the entire world down. And it's interesting that the game gives you the opportunity to do that. And then makes you feel bad about it. More on that later. One of the things that my feelings and my intellect went separate ways on was whether any faction was better than the other, or some factions aligned with my internal faults as opposed to something else. Part of the reason I ended up pursuing the Ranni ending, what's it called? The Age of the Stars ending is because I just found everything connected to her less awful than anything else. And then when I stop myself and actually look at what the Academy is doing, it's just a less disgusting version of what everybody else is doing. And, does that make them better? Well, I don't know. Again, there's not enough detail, but I found myself sympathizing the most with the people in the Academy, even though they were trying to kill me alongside everything else. The different lords represent different places that the various factions go wrong, and therefore they're not worthy, right? And the family tree's a bit messed up. More on that in a bit. But they start with Godric, who's, grafting all these limbs onto himself, and he just couldn't be strong enough. He's killing a whole bunch of people to get ahead. And when you get to, Rennala, she seems less bad by comparison in that she's not intending to kill people. She's still fucking people up bad through her imperfect rebirths. But, the obvious intent, Rennala seems kind of nuts. Alternative theory on that coming in a bit. Compared to, Godric, who just doesn't care, but that's just the way it's presented. I don't know for sure. And then you get, to the Carrion family castle, and it's the place full of the warty hand spiders that completely freaked me out. That was one of the most screwed up things in the whole game. That and Volcano Manor were both major almost check please moments, but I managed to push through. But one of the other thing I'm telling on myself, and that's the thing, I think the only reason there hasn't been a ton of hot takes about the ending of the game is that people don't want to admit what they're inferring from the ending of the game. I am going to, like I said, bare my soul. But one of the things I noticed is that I picked up on the furry foreshadowing with Malekith. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I seeing this? Oh, okay, that was deliberate. I feel less bad. But then again, I have heightened furry sense. I just admitted that on the internet, right? So this is why people don't talk about it. one of the things I did really struggle with was the way gingers, redheads, are used in the game. I am aware of redheads in Asian cultures and some of the ginger phobia there. It just still, I'm not saying this is morally wrong. I'm not saying artistically that they can't do it. Plenty of games do it. There's a reason Ganon's a redhead in Legend of Zelda. But as somebody who this grows out of my head, being the kind of half-bloods associated with rot and disease, you know, and major characters hating their red hair was tough to take for me, especially since this is supposed to be Irish mythology, and one of the major champions of Irish myth is a redhead, this redheaded warrior. And I think that sort of, there's a lot of things in my interpretation that are where the intersection points between Japanese mythology and Celtic mythology. And it's sort of like, okay, those overlays I feel fairly certain we can rely on in terms of the interpretation. But again, that's my bias as well. Obviously, I know some stuff about Celtic myth. I did a lot of research on Japanese myth regarding the damsel in distress trope. It's my bias, right? And everything that follows is going to be about bias. One of the other things that I just really I felt so bad for Blythe. I liked him. I understand the internet thirst for sexy wolf half-brother. I felt so bad for him. The fact that he couldn't control himself, and I felt bad. And one of the things I liked about Elden Ring and the amorality of the world, the fact that the gameplay systems don't push you one way or the other, is that the things I just couldn't bring myself to do, or the people I sympathized with, told me a lot about myself. The fact that even though there were no penalties for the assassination missions that you get through Volcano Manor, and even though plenty of other Tarnish tried to kill me, and I didn't feel any particular fondness for any of them, I never finished those missions through multiple playthroughs. I just couldn't bring myself to needlessly kill things. And then, of course, you know, the game encourages you to murder numerous Albinaurics to mine runes in that area with Mog's temple. And I'm like, okay, but that got me something. And that's what I love about game design. And I was like, am I really treating Albinaurics as less? Is that deliberate by the game, since other exploity things they've patched subsequent to when the game came out? I'm not sure that was deliberate, but it was interesting, right? The place of the Albinaurics in the lore feeds into my theory of the case. It really got me thinking, right? Like, okay, why would one of the characters, I forget his name, the knight in Volcano Manor, caution me against killing my own kind? Plenty of my own kind, plenty of other Tarnished are trying to kill me. Oh, it's blasphemy. Compared to all the other freaky shit that happened. I mean, there's a tell right at the beginning of the game where Tarnished are supposed to have a maiden, and there's a dead maiden right as you get out of the starter zone. And, you know, one theory is that Vere and some others bumped her off to try to push you along your way. Now, who talked him into doing that? This goes to my greater theory of the whole thing. I didn't I still don't quite understand the prohibition against killing other tarnished when it's a world without destined death. Nobody really dies. You have died, you come back. It's the lands between, you know, you fight the pull, bringing everybody towards the lands between with severed fingers. So you go into other tarnished worlds. So there's a multiverse here, and characters die as invaders and still continue in this world. What does death mean? Why is it blasphemy to kill other tarnished? And, you know, it got me thinking about the fact that this is a world where people can't really die. And it's established in lore that people can't die because Marika took away destined death. And what was her goal in doing that? We never really find out. A big thing of From Software games, and something that I found really frustrating in Sekiro, because, you know, the fates of certain characters, really likable characters, hinge on whether you give them a red pinwheel or a white pinwheel, right? You don't know the difference. What, red, white, here, completely arbitrary choice, bad things happen. And, you know, the deontological versus consequentialist choice philosophy, and if there's any interest in deontological game design versus consequentialist game design, it's heady stuff. I will happily make a video about it. Leave a comment. Let me know you're interested. Too much time now. I'm halfway through. But I was very frustrated about how little I knew, even after platinum trophying the game, about what was right, what was wrong, what it all meant. And I ended up going, like I said, with Ranni's ending first, because Ranni was thinking for herself. She was breaking the cycle. But then I went with the Frenzied Flame ending, and I'm like, huh? The Frenzied Flame, I'll get to why the Frenzied Flame ending is the bad ending, but the least satisfying ending, like actively unsatisfying for me, was the various permutations of mend the Elden Ring, become Elden Lord, sit on the throne, the cycle continues. And I think it may be somewhat deliberate that whatever rune you use to mend the Elden Ring, whatever coat of paint you put on the new cycle, it's still just repeating the cycle. But maybe for other people, that idea of, yeah, Elden Lord was really satisfying. Like I said, the whole thing's this look at the self. And this is why I think there weren't a ton of hot takes about the endings. Because let's get to the ending, okay? The Frenzied Flame ending strongly suggests that there's some connection that Ranni and Melina, Ranni's the blue hat witch who goes by multiple names. Melina is the ghost lady that gives you Torrent. They have a connection. They could even be two halves of the same person. In the Frenzied Flame ending, you see sort of composite Melina. Too many M's. More on that in a bit. But she's got one eye Ranni, one eye Melina. Melina, however you pronounce her name. Keska what? And of course, Melina's whole thing is she wants to literally burn herself. Now, she's not alive. She has no body. She refers being born. But she wants to burn herself, to burn the thorns, to give you access to the Erd Tree to become Elden Lord. But it means burning the Erd Tree. So she's telling you, burn the Erd Tree. But if you burn it wrong, you're bad, and she hunts you to the ends of time. Okay. So, Ranni, as one half, wants to break the cycle. Melina wants to continue the cycle. The Frenzy Flame ending is the only ending that neither aspect of this dual, possibly triple goddess didn't want, right? That's the one she said, no, don't do it. And then you get into stuff, then you get into all the stuff with the eyeballs, the Shabriri grapes that the Frenzied Flame cult uses, and the stuff coming out of the eyes. And I have theories, but again, incomplete information. The game does not give you enough information to reliably form a theory. And a lot of people just go, I couldn't follow it. I don't care. I did it to beat the game. Fair. If they had fun with that, awesome. But I'm sitting here going, oh, we know Melina's pissed. But we don't even know if that person at the end is Melina per se, right? Is that Marika herself? Is it some other being? Is it some composite? Is it what's going on? My brain started filling in blanks to the point that it's like, I don't remember what's canon and what my brain made up, right? What makes Ranni different in game from anybody else is that she gave up her rune shard. She sacrificed her body instead of attempting to either maintain or strengthen it. That, and then I take the emphasis on dreams all throughout the game. Michaela, the guy in the egg, his passivity, how gross everything else is. I'm starting to get a transhumanistic message. You're defined by your soul, not your body. But all of that, again, is my brain filling in blanks. And then I jump to the question of why Marika would decide to take away destined death. You're taking away the destined part of death in a game defined by you died. That speaks to free will somehow. Ranni deliberately, it's messy whether her body was burned in the Night of the Black Blades or whether she destroyed it. She sort of orchestrated it. Now, there's some people who think Marika orchestrated the Night of the Black Blades. If they're basically embodiments of the same person, same thing. But Ranni can break the cycle because she gave up power and stopped competing for supremacy. That's so Japanese. More on that in a bit. I want to get back to the fact that Melina wants to be destroyed in a game that emphasizes will, right? They call the main deity the greater will. The source of the runes, the source of the shards, the greater will. And then there's a bunch of other competing, we don't know if they're aliens or deities or what they are, the dark moon, the stars, the formless mother, the blood scar, the frenzied flame, the one-eyed god of fire, ancient god of dragons, all that stuff. The greater will is a deity of order, right? But then you've got Ranni's will, right? And Rykard's will to blaspheme, and so on and so forth. And this is why the incomplete information is really, really frustrating. I truly believe that this game is meant to be played through multiple times. But is that just From Software being From Software, or is the loop intended to be part of the narrative, part of the meaning, the cycle? The game definitely makes a lot more sense when you've played through it once and know where you're going. But there's still so many things that are so easy to miss. Including, and I cannot believe at least one person didn't go full screaming hot take on the big OMG Radagon is Marika thing. It's easy to miss in the cutscene in the Radagon fight, but there's a puzzle, that statue in Leyndell, where you need a 37 faith and cast the regression spell, which is a very handy spell. But the statue changes from Marika to Radagon, or is it vice versa? I don't remember, but I I went to Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Right? Like, okay, they're the same person. And that was when Ratigan was still out in the world. Grew. Somebody didn't go hot take on the fact that America girl, Ratigan boy. You know, no hot takes. My brain went everywhere with this. What could that mean, right? Is Ratigan a construct of Marika's? You know, that would mean Marika went out into the world as a man, had children with Renala, then went back to being one when the task was completed and hit it. Oh no, he married her, right? The naming conventions back that theory up. I know this is going to sound wild, but like I said, this is all the inside of my brain, right? This is a theory I back because of the Rani and Melina thing. Without them being the same person, unless we're supposed to believe Ratigan is Melina's father, but it doesn't match anything else from those. I think Melina is ultimately, Marika goes, nothing else is working. Here goes. I'm going to create spirit guides for somebody completely unconnected. We're going to take a low, commoner, tarnished. Let's see if he doesn't or she doesn't have their head up their own arse. Right? Now, the fact that it's Elden Lord suggests, based on both Irish and Asian mysticism, that there's already a lady, that the lady is primal, right? You know, Rani and Melina don't have a common origin. Them being two halves of the same whole doesn't make any sense. Seeing if Ratigan is not Marika, because Rani is Ratigan's daughter with Renala, not Marika, right? And then I get distracted by Ratigan's the whole red hair is bad thing, because Ratigan's a cool looking character. Red hair is cool. Stop that. And they explain it that, oh, it's like the fire giants that he's killing and that's why he hates it. And it's like, maybe we're supposed to believe that's proof Ratigan wasn't worthy either, but that's up there with her name was Martha and Batman versus Superman. Like, you're killing people. That bothers you more because they happen to look like you? Okay. Now, I read an interesting thing that points out that the pattern on the thorns surrounding the Erd tree is Ratigan's pattern, not Marika's. And so that kind of is a theory that Ratigan's somehow imprisoning Marika, but there's other evidence that goes against that, right? That doesn't clock one with the, remember I said that cross-section of Irish and Japanese myth where men and women are two halves of a whole and sometimes they swap places. There's a lot of gender bending in both traditions. There's an Irish mythic figure called the Dagda, who apparently has a giant schlong but also turns into a woman sometimes. But again, this is information I have. There's no proof that this is correct, right? But then there's the move the Elden Beast pulls on you in the fight that looks a lot like the way Marika is strung up in the only image of her we really see, right? Like Jesus, actually hits you with that rune and then like stabby with like holy attacks, right? And this is where we go back to what the hell is the Elden Beast anyway, other than a nerve energy dragon with a penis head, right? And this is where my brain went crazy with symbolism, explaining the Ratigan is a construct of Marika theory. There are two alchemical dragons in history / myth. There's a two-headed version, like the two fingers, and a three-headed version, like the three fingers, okay? And Japanese creators love to borrow from Western myth. And the fact that this is a Western dragon story, not an Eastern dragon story, makes me feel like I can do this. So The two-headed version of the alchemical dragon that the Elden Beast and other stuff channels, the two fingers, the two-headed versions of Hermaphrodite. The theory is that when we're given physical form, we're separated from a perfected divine. So the whole time we're in flesh bodies, we're incomplete. Being separated into man and woman is imperfect and lonely, and magic, alchemy, all that stuff attempts to get us closer to that perfect unified non-gendered form until we can finally rejoin it the way people talk about rejoining the Erd tree. That's the two fingers. The two-headed alchemical dragon. Then there's the three-headed alchemy dragon, which is often depicted as a dragon lying on its back, eating its own tail, the Ouroboros, right? Now, the three-headed alchemy dragon is historically a much newer idea, much more Greek and Roman instead of more straight up, like, old stuff symbolism. And so we go from 2 to 3, right? The three-headed alchemical dragon is described as Python, Mercurius, and Hermes. Now, Python is the snake deity in Greek and Roman. I don't remember if it's Greek or Roman. I always mix it up. But Mercury and Hermes are the same deity in the two different traditions, right? One's Roman, one's Greek. That's it. Now, the three-headed alchemy dragon is generally interpreted as a symbol for inspiration. And the Hermes head means communication. The Mercurius head is the secret fire, where I think the name Frenzied Flame comes from. Right? And again, inside of my brain, totally open to interpretation. But it is a valid reading if you take the Princess in the Citadel Japanese version. It's a valid reading that Marika's trying to hold back this Elden Beast, which is a divine being not unlike the creepy giant bug Astals you fight predominantly in Ranni's questline. So it's like Ranni's getting you to bump off the other deities, so you can pave the way for more free will, right? So is Marika creating this pocket that is the lands between, that all these other creepy nervous system penis monsters and bug things can't just crush, because there's signs that Radahn's holding some stuff back with his power. So, let's get to these other imperfect, defective Elden Lords. Now that we're already past the half-hour mark, okay? They established that all the other Elden Lords that were part of these dynasties, none of them passed muster, right? None of them were worthy enough to be the next Elden Lord. And is that because they weren't strong enough to keep these beasts out of, people's business for the next cycle, or kill them all to get the Ranni ending? And that would mean that the Frenzied Flame ending is bad. And the reason that Marika nearly exterminated the fire giants back in the day is because the Frenzied Flame and the fire giants both work for another one of these competing wills. And so these factions are not interested in freedom of thought, and they don't act for, people's ability to make their own destiny. Now, Marika's first attempt to create a line of kings via Godfrey, aka Hoarah, that didn't work. I will point out that the other Lu is Nephili Lu in the game. I noticed that Kenneth, who's, a real pompous pretender, and Sir Gideon, they're both trying to keep her really close. They're both trying to control her, right? And Nephili becomes sort of mayor of Leyndell. That's what I got from it. But, this, I don't know if he's a descendant or the title is just significant, but Hoarah, aka Godfrey, was, the lands between first confirmed furry, and Marika seems to be into that, considering she had a half-brother who was a wolf fur. That's Malekith, aka, like, the death priest dude. Now, Malekith means friend of evil. So I don't know what that's about. But you see that Marika has Malekith. Ranni has Blythe, right? Another wolf fur, but Blythe's programmed to kill her if she strays from her predestined path. Is that what happened with Malekith too? We don't know. There's too many holes, right? But Marika's union with Godfrey created this line of psycho power-hungry men who just kill and maim and graft limbs and bathe in blood and all have G names. Godfrey, all the way down. Godwyn, Godric, blah, blah, blah. They're just obsessed with strength. They're brutes. They're not worthy of being Lord. But then you've got the Omens from that line with M names. And I'm still not sure where the Omens fit, but that naming convention can't be an accident. More on that in a bit. I have my theories about the indigenous groups that look a lot like the Omens and worship deer spirits. That's what I think they are. They're the people who were there before and something happened. Like maybe they're not really Godfrey's kids. Maybe Marika had, you know, kids with the ancestor spirit or something like that. I don't know. But then we've got her second marriage. Or Ratigan's first marriage, depending how you look at it. At the same time, Ratigan's having kids with Rennala. Now, instead of them being brutes, all of Rennala's children are defined by unhealthy attachments. Now, Buddhism, and I complain about Star Wars about this all the time, the idea of a Buddhist attachment is not that you don't love. An attachment, and the reason it's bad, it's an attempt to control things that you can't control. And this makes you do not great things, right? And so you've got Ratigan with his teeny tiny horse. Like, you just can't let that poor horse rest, right? Like, let the horse go, man. That horse is suffering. But he does all this gravity magic so he can ride this teeny tiny ridiculous horse. By the way, Radahn, I say Ratigan, Radahn, General Radahn. Radahn is my favorite fight in the whole freaking game. I love that fight. I always die the first time because I laugh hysterically at that big comet attack. But best fight in the whole game. But teeny tiny horse, can't let it go, right? Then there's Rykard. Rykard is also almost like, check please, creepy, everything about it. But the whole thing, they are family, become family together, right? Like, there's this sort of attachment, bad, creepy, yeah, whoa. And then there's Ranni, who has the least attachments of them all, but it's her talking to the Tarnished in the Rennala boss fight. And she mentioned that the Tarnished shouldn't disrupt her mother's dream. So Ranni's still watching over her mother somehow, which is something that's not connected to her greater goals. It's just sentiment. And you notice these are all R names, so all the G names have the same things. All the R names are the same things. But then you've got the M names, which some of them are allegedly Marika's children with Ratigan. Whereas I think they're probably just Marika going, I'm just gonna make people now, no pretense. Which might have been what she was doing all along, just using certain people as inspiration. Because obviously Rennala, when Ratigan goes back to Marika, she can't cope, right? She's so in love with him that she goes kind of nuts, and Ranni puts her in a dream to kind of soothe her pain, right? So then you got Miquella, Malenia, oh, that fight. Melina, who is not a known child of Ratigan and Marika. And then there's Millicent that is somehow connected to Malenia. Maybe her daughter, but we're not sure. She has all these other sisters that are trying to kill each other. They're all these warriors. So we have this like line of female warriors. But what's really interesting about Malenia and Miquella is that they're like Ratigan and Marika, only with the gender switched. Miquella's blonde, passive, and associated with age, with eggs. He doesn't age. You know, Marika's a bazillion years old and still outwardly beautiful. So, you know, these are passive characters. We barely see them in game. And then you've got Malenia, who, like Radagon, is associated with battle and weapons and corruption of a sort. Radagon has the red hair of the fire giants. Malenia has the red hair and the scarlet rot. We're seeing the exact same character tropes, only with the genders reversed. And I mean, okay, Malenia's a fucking badass, man. But still, we see Radagon with, you know, the dark bits missing. We see Malenia with the scarlet rot, and Miquella's needle can cure the scarlet rot. Miquella is also known as Trina. So we don't know who Trina is. We know that it's a saint somehow associated with lilies. Maybe we'll find this stuff out in the DLC because it's a big missing piece, right? But Miquella and Malenia are twins. But these twins are trying to create a completely separate society from the Golden Order, right? And then, so now we've got Ranni and all her pseudonyms, right? She goes by Rennie as well, at least. And then we've got Millicent and all her sisters. And then we've got Malenia, who is tied to Ranni somehow, but she's an M, right? There's not enough information to explain this, but it's very close to a structure, right? So here's the way my brain squared it. And I'm prefacing this with the absolute awareness that it is impossible to know for sure. This is my brain filling in pieces that doesn't actively contradict anything else. But again, vulnerable inside of my brain, right? The whole thing's Marika's dream. She's defying the Order Penis Monster Dragon to give people a place to have choices. And she's pulling people in who have also fallen from grace like her somehow. We don't know where she came from before she became this thing, right? She's created this dream world that is imperfect, but it's very clear that Melina wants the world to continue because people still born, people still have lives. Yes, it's a hard life, but it's something, right? She's very, very attached to this, whereas Ranni, her counterpart, is going on trying to create a more free society. And the only bad ending is when you get inhabited by the frenzied flame, destroy the structure that Marika created without sort of setting the path for free will. And the fact that this is the structure is the reason the only people who are truly free and even remotely happy, they say Miquella's dreaming, Renala's dreaming, and she seems out to lunch, but, you know, content. Certainly less gross than everybody else, but Miquella, Renala, and Marika herself. Where's she been all this time? She's clearly still a presence. Well, she might be Radagon. And they show people's, Sellen calls it a glintstone. There's like an internal essence that you can transfer between bodies, right? But all this is just Marika's dream. And people get pulled into the dream. And the only way you truly ascend our shitty flesh meat lives is to give up your attachments and dream as well. And even if the dream is horrible and disgusting, like From Software dreams, that is still better than the real world because you control it. And so in my version, Radagon is just Marika's external form. He's the guy that goes out in the world, gets all the rot in it, gets the gingerphobic red hair. He's the one that absorbs all the corruption, the same way Malenia does for Miquella. So Marika can stay pure as a creator, the egg, the tree. Miquella can stay pure as the dreamer creator, the egg, the tree. And And, you know, that part is protected to just dream, not beat up and cut down by the cruelty of the world, right? But that is saying so much about me and my process. And that's the only reason I don't think people are smart enough to break that all down and not write a hot take, either calling the game transphobic for the Radigan America boss fight, because it's an antagonist that you kill, transphobia, or, oh wow, they were really making a statement about the fact that gender is not fixed, bodies are not fixed. We are our souls, like Ronnie, like Mikola. We are not our bodies. Oh, that's a pro-trans message. And the fact that people flipped their shit over Hogwarts Legacy and didn't touch Elden Ring makes me think they either missed it because the narrative's impenetrable. They didn't want to see it because that would mean some people who were two genders admitting that a game series they love because it makes them feel macho is, you know, taking a view they might not agree with. Or people who have been the whole, there should be an easy mode, played it and went, oh, this is kind of sympathetic, and nobody could defy their politics to actually like engage in the intellectual pursuit of close analysis. Or I'm just me and my brain is weird, and I hope you enjoyed this journey into my subconscious. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Come on. If you like this stuff, if you like this big swing, there will be more Elden Ring content coming up that's a bit more about it as a game instead of just a story. A lot more about it as a game and just a story. Support me on Patreon or coffee.com/LeannaK. Buy a one-time Leanna Care session for people who couldn't use it who can't afford it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know. Let me know if you like this sort of discussion. Okay, thanks. Long video. Thanks for watching.